I think that maybe the case shouldn't have been brought at all. I would assume you disagree with that.
Well, I do, Dan. I mean, let's start with the fact that this case is not what's been accurately described in the media, right? A lot of people have focused on the salacious details, the hush money payment, the affairs, the Playboy centerfold, the adult, film star. Right. But what the case is really about is election interference. This is about Donald Trump as a candidate conspiring to deceive voters by illegally covering up information that he believed could have been relevant to the election, information that he believed would have hurt his campaign. And once you focus on that intent, the fact that he was trying to keep information from voters and that he did it in an illegal way, then this is just about accountability and the rule of law, and that's what DA Bragg has done.
Well, Andrew, let me ask you, let me follow up with you about that, because he wasn't charged with election interference. I mean, the feds decided not to charge him with the federal election violation, and now you have a state prosecutor using an uncharged, effectively federal crime as a basis to get him to a felony on what ordinarily would have been a misdemeanor. I mean, is that an unfair characterization?
Well, it's an incomplete characterization because the DA has put forward 3 legal theories that can elevate what ordinarily would be a misdemeanor to a felony charge. One of them is a violation of federal law, as you've referenced, but there's also the allegation that it was a violation of state election law and a violation of tax laws. And so the question here is, why was Trump falsifying records, right? He was doing it, allegedly, to conceal the information that he was hiding from voters. So he didn't want voters to know that he had paid the hush money payments, and in order to hide that information from them, he had to cover up the payments to do so by falsifying the business records. And in so doing, he violated various laws, and that's why it's elevated to a felony.
Jim Trusty, what do you make, now I'm going to flip it and take the other side, what do you make of my argument, though, that even though there's a solid case to be made that maybe the case shouldn't have been brought at all, now that it has been brought, the evidence against Donald Trump in this case is actually quite strong. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's certainly premature. I mean, there's a couple of flashpoints here. One is jury selection. One is certainly the credibility of Michael Cohen. But keep in mind what Bragg did. After the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office walked away from this horrifically compromised witness, Michael Cohen, didn't give him credit for being a cooperator in their probe and said this is a garbage case. Bragg got very creative, which should be a dirty word when it comes to high-profile prosecutions, and is creating a felony out of thin air. The indictment is a bare-bones indictment. What Bragg did at the press conference was something I've never seen as 27 years as a prosecutor, 8 years on the other side of the aisle. He issued a statement of facts to try to bolster these holes and this creative lawyering that was not reviewed by the grand jury, not signed off on as part of an indictment, but a glorified press release to say we're going to enforce federal law, among other things, through this state felonization of misdemeanors. There is so much creative lawyering. It brings you back to the beginning, Dan, which is prosecutors should not be politicians. They shouldn't be in the business of saying, I'm going to go after this guy and we'll find a way to get there. And that's what this case, just like Letitia James's case, is all about.
I don't think Bragg actually campaigned on that the way Letitia James did. But nevertheless, you mentioned the Michael Cohen plea deal back from 2018, where the feds, as you correctly said, decided not to prosecute Donald Trump for whatever reason, because he was president. They didn't decide after he was no longer president. But in that case, the feds made it clear that they believed that part of the thing Michael Cohen was pleading guilty to was ordered by Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's gratuitous, right? They put stuff out in the plea agreement, shaping him up like he's going to be a cooperator for the next indictment, and then they walk away. And yeah, that's a pretty defamatory moment when you think about it. But look, they may have believed it, but they also recognize that there is this thing called prosecutorial ethics and discretion. They're not shy about going after Trump, clearly, but they looked at that case. They said we couldn't possibly, with a straight face, walk into court with a novel theory depending on Michael Cohen's credibility.
Final quick point, Jim. What do you expect? Do you expect a conviction, hung jury? Any ideas?
Yeah, hard to know. I mean, look, it's uphill territory for President Trump to have anything in New York, whether or not the judge acts, fairly or not. He did get some good rulings today. I think the great unsaid story is jury selection.
I agree.
That's the thing. It's like watching paint dry, but that's the thing to focus on, because if the judge wants to rehabilitate biased jurors to get them qualified, Trump's going to run out of strikes in a New York minute. If he plays it straight and says we've got to really be pristine, then you could get a juror or two that get hung up on Michael Cohen.
Real quick, Andrew, a lot of these jurors have already said that they couldn't be fair. Does that mean that there are a lot of jurors in New York who are not going to be on this case, who were a lot of the ones who were ready to convict Donald Trump from the beginning?
No, what you saw is jurors being honest, and you see the jury selection process where the lawyers and the judges have a right to question the jurors to make sure that they're going to be fair and impartial. And look, there's a lot of noise, and Jim's making some, good arguments that sound like they're sound bites from the Trump campaign. But the reality is that once you're inside the courtroom, and once the judge takes control, as he has in this case, and the jurors follow the judge's instructions and they focus on the evidence, then it's all about whether the state can prove its case. And here, from what we've seen from the outside, they have a pretty strong case, one that's going to bear out over the next 6 weeks, that shows that Trump actually committed the crimes he's accused of.
We shall see.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.